What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Panels on Pages. My name is Dalibor Zujovic, and I am joined today by AJ Ampadu.
Ampadu. Yes, you got
Oh,
it.
got
Nailed
it.
it. Boom.
I love it. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. It's about 10 p.m. over here in New Jersey, and I'm great and very grateful to be here with you tonight.
Awesome, man. I don't know if you remember, we met at Virtuous Con. That's how I ended
Yes,
up
I
that's how I
do.
ended up
I
buying the
do.
book,
I
and I ended up
do
buying
remember.
the other book
Yes.
for my friend's kid.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I like that book right off the get. So when I saw that you were doing some new stuff, I was like, we got to have another conversation, and we got to tell the people what's popping, what's new. So let me ask the
Um,
first question I want to ask: EarthTone Kingdom. What's the name? What's the name and like the identity behind that? What's the meaning?
Thank you so much. That's a fantastic question. And again, thank you for allowing me to be here. What beer are you drinking?
It's not beer, it's water. I just really
Oh,
like I drink a lot
you
of
just
water, so
got
I
it
drink
in the,
very
okay.
large. This
Okay.
is
All right.
I buy these like at Goodwill. It's from the Foundry. I think
Okay.
it's a bar. I don't
All
know.
right. I just saw a yellow shimmer in there. I was like, oh man, that looks refreshing. Okay, but to answer your question, EarthTone Kingdom, what is that all about? So I started off as a hip hop artist, MC and
Okay.
producer, going back now about 12 12 years. And at that time, my rap name was Piso the EarthTone King. And that originated from the fact that I used to wear a lot of clothes that were earth tones. And a colleague of mine just randomly said, "Hey, man, you're the earth tone king." And it was just a word he said, just shooting from the hip, just as almost as a joke, as a jab. And it rang in my head because it kind of had this fantasy aesthetic. I'm a big fan of dark fantasy graphic novels like Sandman and Swamp Thing and stuff like that. So I was thinking of the Earth Tone King as like this magical storyteller who just like sits in a castle and weaves, these stories from nature, coming from nature and things like that. So it just had this cool mystical kind of aesthetic to me, and it became a part of my hip hop persona. So when I decided to pivot into comic books and graphic novels, the idea of having an earth tone kingdom, like where it's a place that you go and all of these types of stories can occur there, and you can experience so many different things, just felt right as a moniker for um, a comic and graphic novel company that creates what I call illustrated speculative fiction.
Ooh,
And
okay.
I know that's a mouthful, but I've kind of really thought about branding my, comic book company as something that does sci-fi and fantasy and horror and Afrofuturism. And I do cover all those domains, but um illustrated speculative fiction is kind of a deeper meaning to me. Just because I feel like when we're as a writer, I want to imagine a world that a lot of other creators might not be able to imagine, and that's kind of like the speculative aspect of it. I'm kind of going off on a very long tangent
No,
as a
no,
matter
no.
of
That's
question.
great. I love everything that you said. Honestly, I've found
Appreciate that.
that there is a lot of intersect between hip hop and comic books. Going back like further than I even realized. Like my first exposure to it was the Wu Massacre album, and you had Chris Bacalo doing the three different covers for that album, and I was like, oh damn, I was a kid, but I was like, I gotta pick one of these because it's like I don't have the money for all three. So I really
The,
it was like my
they hit you
most
with the variants.
it was
They hit
exactly
you with
it
the
hit the
variants.
variants,
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
that was the biggest decision of that year for me. I was like, which cover am I getting of this album? And it's a sick
Wow,
album too, and
wow.
like the
That's
videos behind it and everything. But it's
that's
like I
awesome.
didn't. That was when I first learned that Ghostface refers to himself as Tony Starks. Like I didn't even know that at the time. Like
Yeah, right,
I was very
exactly.
uneducated with the Woo at the time, but so like
Yeah,
it was just like I was getting this whole new perspective, and ever since then I hear all the little references like um I would say the first ever reference I ever heard, and I was just like blown away because I was like, holy crap. Um, it was X, Exhibit X, and he says, I'm concrete like Benjamin Grimm. It's a very thin line between a foe and a friend. And I was like, he knows about the comics. Holy
He's one
shit.
of us. He's one of us. Yeah, no, the intersection between comic books and hip hop goes deep. I mean, we could make a whole entire podcast about that. Shout out my man, Patrick Reed. He's a curator who does an annual panel called Hip Hop and Comics,
Ooh.
and he's one of the many people who's very well versed in that aspect, where he literally will go back to he'll pull up panels of Spider-Man with people breakdancing, and like just the Outcast ATLiens album that had a comic book in it, which was mind
Oh, I
blowing
didn't
to
even know
me.
that.
Yeah, if you get the CD of the ATLiens CD, there was some comic book pages in the booklet for that album particularly,
Oh, that's
or
awesome.
Bill Sienkiewicz doing a Kid Cudi album cover, the Kid Cudi's first album. That's Bill Sienkiewicz who did that album cover.
Of course it is. Oh, of course it is. Because I always love that cover. Now that
Right.
you say that, it just makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I
So
did a series of videos on TikTok where I'm still working on it, but it's like
mhm.
picking my favorite artists for particular characters, and I had to disqualify Sienkiewicz because he's so fucking good at everything. I was like, I looked for like different character stuff I hadn't seen him draw before, and it was like everything he fucking did looked great, and I was like,
Mhm.
I can't even count this guy. Like he's
Mhm.
great at everything. Like he's one of the S tier. I had to get him out of there.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, no, there's so many opportunities for hip hop, or so many examples of hip hop and comic books um crossing over. And I myself, yes, it very much am a product of that. You know, EarthTone Kingdom is going to release hip hop music, as well. I had to take a lengthy break from recording music. Just I became a father. I moved. I got married. I had a lot of life changes in the past few years. So music was something that I had to kind of table for a little bit. But now that I'm being creative again and I'm creating these books, music is the next thing that's going to follow up. And essentially, I want to make soundtracks for a lot of the books that I'm putting out.
Okay.
And even if they're just instrumental, or if they're full blown, hip hop albums, that's something that I'm excited about jumping back into. So yeah, that's further down the line for the EarthTone Kingdom. Sure.
That's awesome, man. I dig the shit out of that. So it's funny when you said that, like that the Earth Tone King was kind of part of your rap persona. When I went to college in '02, damn, I'm old.
Mhm.
um we ended up in a fucking cipher, and I say we ended up in a cipher in so much as I do not freestyle off the top. So I don't
Okay.
I was like, I can't do this, guys. I can't
Mhm.
participate, but this is awesome. And then that night I just went back to my dorm and I like aim messaged one of the guys with like 4 bars, simple
Mhm.
shit, like
Mhm.
nothing. And then we
Mhm.
went back and forth for like a year in text, and I was just blown
So it
away.
was a battle, or was it a cipher?
It was a part battle, part cipher. We just kept going. It was like challenging one another because
Right, right, right.
my last name is Zujovic, right? And but
Mhm.
the American way to pronounce it is Zujovic or Zujovic, and I was like, you can't, like, something about like he can't like rhyme well, and he came back with rhyming my name with something, and I was just like, when I read it, I just fell out of my fucking chair. Like it was
Oh
the
wow.
best shit. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's the power of hip hop and wordplay. Like, just the way that the poetry, and just the way that you can put words together, and just the energy and the cadences, and the rhythm of language, that's all encompassed in hip hop is it's so much fun. Like, I love listening to hip hop. I mean, as up and down as it is as a genre, even in modern times, I still listen to a lot of hip hop. And yeah, I definitely connect to it. And once again, like I'm still writing, like as an artist. Like the only real reason I'm not putting out a lot of music is just because of my time. It's because of time, you
I feel
know.
that.
But
I
and
feel
it's
that for
still
sure.
I'm still writing bars. I'm still, working on beats and stuff. Like I have a actually have another podcast that I'm on called Three Beats Later. Shout out my Three Beats Later fan. That's you can spell it out. Every week we talk about music production
Oh,
as an
okay.
art form, as a business. We make
That's
beats.
awesome.
We yeah, it's a great opportunity to kind of like jump into the music production aspect of music and hip hop and as it relates to the people who create it. So we have interviews and demonstrations, and sometimes we make beats live. Like it's really really dope.
Oh wow.
So
That's cool.
yes, so yeah, music. I feel like words, pictures, like hip hop. It's all like patterns. Like panels on a page and kicks and drums and snares on a beat and the bars that you drop on them. It's patterns.
Yeah,
Patterns of color, patterns of sounds. I just think there's just like this ancestral, almost like rhythmic thing with the shape and the form of storytelling, which I think hip hop and comics both encompass.
for sure, man. For sure. I fully agree. That's why, I don't really talk about it a lot, but like panels on pages is meant to be a play on words, right? It's discussing the
Well,
pages that we
it's
talk about, but it's also the actual panels on the pages.
well,
Like it's everything,
well, it's two P's, right?
right?
Right. So that's like alliteration. So it's like the words
The
feel
Peter
feel
Parkers, the Bruce
yeah,
Banners.
right. Exactly. There you go. Panels
There's
and pages.
layers. There's
So
layers,
so
It's
so
the
that
it's
so
the
that
it's the I can
that's
sell
rhythm.
water to a whale that I didn't even realize 20 fucking years later that had a double meaning to it. I just
Double entendre.
I expected that I was like, no, he's talking about selling water to a whale. Whale doesn't need water, he's in water, right? But apparently other people heard well. And I was like, oh shit, I hear that too now. Now I hear both. So now when I hear the verse, I'm like, shit, which is it?
Yeah. Like it's wild. You know what's crazy about that? When I heard that song, um, I heard both. I
Oh,
heard both, and I,
interesting.
and and I thought but I didn't think it was intent. I thought I was just misinterpreting what he was doing. I was like, you know what? Wouldn't it be so dope if he was saying whale and well? But I'm like, nah,
Right?
Jay-Z's not that witty. Can't he? So when it came out that nah, he did that, I was just like,
Right.
God
Dude, I
damn
love
it,
the
he
moment.
is.
I love the moment when it's like a year, 2 year, 10 years down the line, and you hear the song again, and something's different. You're at a different angle listening to it or something, and you hear the line differently. Like for me, I was listening to fuck, I forget the damn song, but the if you grew up with holes in your Zappa toes, right? I just thought in my head, I was like, that's just like an old school brand of shoe that I don't know about, right? Because I knew that he was talking about shoes, but I was like, that's a brand of shoe that I don't know about. I've only been in this country for a certain amount of time. That's before my time. Maybe there was like some kids
Yeah.
brand, like,
Oh, and then catch it with Spanish.
and then like 6 months ago, I swear to God, I'm driving and I was just like repeating it, but I for whatever reason I chose to like put like a weird accent on it, and then I like slowed it down and set it at a different cadence. I'm like, oh fuck, he's actually literally just saying shoes.
Well, when you say accent, enunciation, is a big part of like how really talented rappers can make things rhyme.
Yep.
By taking words and pronouncing them differently. Like my wife and I, we always marvel at Eminem because he talks about how he could rhyme the word orange
I
and
was just
he
I
did
literally I was just thinking about that
it.
today. I forget
Right,
why it popped into my head, but it's like
right.
the oranges, peach, pears, plums. I
Syringes,
was like,
syringes, yeah,
so good.
syringes, yeah, like and just like the you know, a lot of different rappers do that. Like Black Thought does that
Oh,
sometimes. Like Jay-Z, of course, we just talked about. You know, one of the crazy Jay-Z lines to me is when he does the Yao Ming line, because he says I'm a franchise like a Houston Rocket, Yao Ming. And then when you really think about that, there's multiple things going on there, right?
oh
Because he
no,
says
bro, you
look
just did
at
that to me.
he said his brain just blew up because
I
he
didn't
said
realize you just
so
did that to me.
he says
Oh fuck.
I'm a franchise. So we know Steve Francis is also known as Stevie Franchise, right? Plays for the Houston Rockets. So I'm a franchise like a Houston Rocket. Yao Ming, but Yao Ming
I,
is also double entendre because he's also referencing another Houston Rocket, but then also he's saying it like Yao Ming, you know what I
that's what
mean?
I heard. That's oh my
So
god.
and it all
Shit.
ties back into the Houston Rockets, right? And so it was just like it's just another level of wordplay that is just crazy. And you know, once again, Jay-Z is that guy. Like actually, I got to go see the Book of Hove exhibit
Oh shit.
at Brooklyn Public Library here. I actually have the book in front of me right here. This thing is not
You gotta put
gonna
it in
let
front of
oh okay.
yourself.
Okay. Okay. That
No,
works.
there we
There
go.
we go. So this is the little I guess
That's awesome.
um program that they give you with it. But yeah, that was really dope. But yeah, you know, Jay-Z's a huge influence for me because not only is he a dope artist, but he's a dope businessman. And that's the struggle that
I'm not a
artists have
businessman, I'm a
is
businessman.
exactly. Um this artists are not supposed to be good at business. They're supposed to be good at art. But no
Right.
one gives them, you know, you don't really get that benefit of the doubt from the universe. You know, you're
It's
not
true.
if when you really look at other disciplines, people are not really expected to be great at two disciplines. Most people are expected you know you can make it if you're really good at doing you know something, but you know artists are not coveted unless they're also really great at business, you know. And it's I think it's
You're right.
unfortunate, but it's just a reality. And you have people like you know like an Andy Warhol. That was one of his big things was, hey, you know, I'm gonna monetize the shit out of what I do. Like I'm
That
gonna
guy
make
invented
sure,
monetizing.
right, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna make sure that this generates money. And you know, when you look at a Jay-Z and he's like, you know, he made classic hip hop and also made billions of dollars. So it is feasible. But it's a lot of work because you have to work. You have to put your 50,000 hours into your art, and you have to put your 50,000 hours into business. Probably
Right.
$100,000, $150,000 into the
Right.
business side.
Right.
Um,
We
and
got we
you
you know
know,
we got to quote out Stokes, you know, marketing is a part of the requirement, right? Marketing
yeah,
is
right, right.
what is the damn quote? I just you because I think that's what you posted. I literally can't remember it.
I'm sure. Yeah, I probably posted something Stokes said. I posted or reposted rather. I can't remember exactly the exact quote, but I'm sure it relates to exactly
But it's
what
just
we're
like, yeah,
saying. Is that
it's the like you need to be able to market yourself to sell comics.
Mhm.
Like,
And it's crazy because I get to a point where I'm just like I see both sides where I'm just like the artist in me is like, no, that's bull crap. I should be able to just be an artist. And then I see artists who don't promote their stuff.
right,
And sometimes I get bothered. And you know what's crazy? You know what I go as far now when I go to a comic book convention, I go to the people who don't promote their stuff. Like the least appealing like table with the quiet artist who doesn't
right,
who's like super introverted. Those are the tables I go to because I think those people are just too much of an artist to
right.
know how to market and sell themselves, which means their art is probably better. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way I look at it.
I
because when I
I
see
feel
the
the potential for that
listen,
is true.
it's not consistent. It's not
Right.
consistent. But sometimes the person with the super shiny table who's super extroverted and knows and everything looks great and they're checking all the boxes. Sometimes I'm just like, well, how much time did you put into your art? You know what I mean?
Dude, it's very
Like,
true, man.
oh, it, it,
That's a real
it,
concern. Like
it,
the biggest booths at conventions are always what? They're selling prints. They're just
right,
selling prints.
right, yeah,
Nobody's
yeah,
doing any live sketches. No, it's just
mm-hmm,
prints, metal prints,
mm-hmm,
this kind of
mm-hmm,
print, glow in the dark prints. They're
right,
gonna
right,
sell you a piece of paper
mm-hmm.
for the highest possible price and act like you just won something.
Right, right, right. So I mean, but see, I'm a digger. I like to find the diamonds in the rough. People people nowadays are so accustomed to be being marketed to. I don't know if every people value the dig. Like going back to hip hop references, like we were talking about, hanging out with all my producer friends who just want to get their fingers dusty, digging through vinyl, trying to find the next amazing sample. I remember digging through vinyl. I remember digging through old boxes of comics from going to a yard sale. You might find a gem. Going to some old comic book convention or a comic book store in a city when you're visiting. That was one thing that I always love to do when I visit a city that I haven't been to is go to the vinyl shop and go to the comic book store because I want to see what's going on in that city because I know there's going to be some stuff there that I'm not going to see at home, But
For sure.
that desire, that like need to dig and find something and unearth something is not what a lot of people covet nowadays. Nowadays, people want to see the shiny red ball. They want to be marketed. Whoever can market this the best, whoever has the best likes, that go on and find a person with the least likes that's find that stuff be the curator of your own kind of journey. Don't allow yourself to just be hanging on to whatever is big. And that's the crazy thing about it is like I love mainstream stuff, but I love a lot of indie weird underground stuff. And I just wish people were like more like that. I wish people would spend more time trying to find new and different and original stuff. Because whenever I hear somebody complaining, oh, there's nothing new, everything's
Right?
just like
Oh my God.
franchises and sequels. And I always have to remind people, hey, there's more new things now than there ever has been. You're just not looking, around. When people say, oh, music sucks and whatever, I'm like, well, where are you going? You got to find it. You have to do more work.
Yeah,
It's
music
not,
sucks
it's
if you're
not
listening to fucking the radio. If you're just
right,
listening to radio or like the your Discover Weekly and all you listen
right.
are the popular songs, your Discover Weekly is going to be here's you know T-Pain's new song. Whereas, are you listening to Futuristic? Are you listening to Chemistry? Are you listen like there are people who you may not have heard about, but who are
Hmm.
dropping gems.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm. Yeah,
and
big.
it's the same way in comics. Like it's really really the same way in comics
Yeah.
because then that's why I do what I do. Like I saw so after George Floyd, I like started this thing on my Instagram where because I like everyone fucking didn't know what to do. I was like, how can
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
like what's something I could do?
Hmm.
And I was like, what I can do is I can use what little platform I have to uplift Black voices and Black creators. So I would find people on Instagram who were doing comics, who were doing art or music or whatever production, and I would just be like, "Here's my feature for the week. These are the dope people. Check them out." Right. And that's what turned into this podcast, and that's what turned into my magazine because I was like I found people just through that for 6, 7, 8 months, whatever I was doing it straight, where I was like, I thought I was in. Like I thought I was already in the indie space. I thought I knew shit. I thought I knew people. Like I thought I had my finger in the pie. I didn't realize I hadn't even walked into the fucking bakery yet. Like
Hmm.
there were so many people because I found Millennium Comics and they were doing Delta Dogs and they were on issue 11. I was like, how have I not heard about this fucking book? Like, how have I, of all fucking people, how have I not heard about this book? So I was like, let me just pick it up, read the first issue, 99 cents or whatever digital. And I was like, all right, dope. I'm going to need the next one. So I picked up so 2 and 3. And I was like, before I finished issue 2, I bought the rest of the first arc because I was like, this is fun. I'm
Nice.
in. I'm bought in. Like, I love this fucking
Prop.
story.
Big props to you for supporting indie comics. Let me just give you those flowers right now
I
because
appreciate that.
that's that's the thing that I think a lot of people really need to understand is that you know, the more the financial shift towards the indie market, the more you're going to get better quality indie comics and more consistent indie comics. And I think right now, to me, there's an indie comic revolution going on, and I
Definitely.
think it's crazy. Like my own comic purchasing history, going from buying only mainstream stuff to now, I pretty much only buy comics on Kickstarter or at conventions now. And if I see something cool or original, unique, and I know it's creator owned, I'm just going to dramatically increase my likelihood I'm going to buy it. You
Yeah. I
know,
mean,
because I
I
know.
just went to a shop the other day. I'll show you right now this fucking stack. And it's like stuff I'd never heard of before. And that's what I grabbed
Mhm,
now. They were like, oh, this box is 50% off. And I was like, all right, cool. I mean, I know these are kind of like bigger companies or whatever, but like,
mhm.
picked up Birthright from
Well,
Image. I
nice,
know
nice.
that's a little,
Yeah.
that's what's his face. Always forget his damn name. Oh no, it's Joshua Williamson. I didn't realize it was, but like I remember this coming out and I was like, I did like the concept where it's like this retired superhero with like dementia
Mhm.
starts putting on the costume again and like going out with dementia, like trying to fight
Nice.
crime again. And I was like, that's such a fucking dope idea. But then
Wow.
like while I was looking through those, I came across these things and I Rexodus, no fucking clue what this is. There's a
Wow.
dinosaur in armor, and I was like, that. And then was it Wayward Sons Legends, which I was like, this looks dope. I've
Oh,
never heard of that. I've never heard of Red Giant Entertainment. I don't know who these people are. So I was like,
nice.
bet, let's check it out. Like,
Yeah.
because that's where the interesting
Uh,
stuff is, man. Like that's because
it
it's like I
it
love
is.
X-Men. Don't get me wrong. This entire shelf over here,
Right.
X-Men and Avengers.
We all do. We all do.
And so I'm X-Men until I die. There's no question about that. But like there's only so much X-Men, right?
Mhm,
I'm
mhm,
going to like my plan is to collect everything they have in collected format. I'm gonna get everything X-Men. But then I'm going to run out of X-Men. I will have at some point read all of it. And yeah, I can always go back to my favorite stories and arcs or whatever, but like there's always more. There's always more stories
mhm,
to read. There's always more interesting stuff
mhm,
besides just what Marvel and DC put out. And like
mhm, mhm.
I even kind of put Image up in that like mainstream category because they're known. Like if you see
Yeah, yeah.
like if I put my book out and it's like an Image label on top, way higher likelihood of getting a sale than my
Certainly,
own company.
certainly,
Like,
certainly. But yeah, no, everything you said is absolutely true. I just think that it's an exciting time. The water, the tide is changing, and you know, I think that the mainstream superhero stuff, a lot of people are saying it's dying. I don't know. Like it's probably just going through a phase. Like
yeah,
we've seen this industry fluctuate many times. Um, I think that it might just make the mainstream guys do something different. Like I think what's happening with the comic book industry is just diversifying. I could see a world where Marvel and DC stop putting out monthly books. They start just putting out graphic novels and like,
yeah. A la
manga.
manga, right?
Right. I was about to say like manga style and more YA kind of like bookstore style releases, and just the formatting of it's changing and everything. But people are always going to want these stories. People are always
For
going to
sure.
idolize these type of characters, and it's 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 great that now an independent creator such as myself has the tools to create their own books. I think there was a larger barrier of entry before, because if you're an indie creator, you had to work for one of the major companies. That was the only way you were going to get your voice heard. So now that you can actually use the tools that this world has provided to make your own books, it's an absolute game changer, and it's exciting to see a lot of people, you know, carve their own destiny.
Sorry, I was sick a few weeks ago, so like I've got this
Oh
stupid tickle in the back of my
no,
throat.
it's okay, it's okay, man. So I totally understand.
But
I
yeah,
get some
man.
hot
So
tea with some lemon.
I do have to. I gotta do more hot tea for sure. So on my TikTok, which is at Indie Hype Man, if you guys don't know, um, I asked a question a while back, and I asked the audience, if you will, for some questions they would want to ask indie creators. So I've got a few here for you that I think are relevant to
All
some
right.
of the things that you've touched on. So
Awesome. Let's shoot.
going back to talking about the EarthTone Kingdom, when you create a new character, are you thinking of how to put him into like the EarthTone Kingdom, like how or her, how are you going to fit them into the story that like or the framework that you've already established, or are you always just like this is the character and I'm going to build the world out around them?
Okay. That's an excellent question. I think when I approach it, it varies. Sometimes I start with the character and then the world manifests around that character. Other times I start with the world. And then I try to insert the character into, or I create characters within that world. You know, let's start with Kimi Cosmic. It started with her. First I thought about a little girl. I had this image in my head about it. It's a little girl sitting on an asteroid in space. And I was like, how can I make that happen? And what is that all about? And I started thinking about, oh, well, what if she's half alien? And what if she lives on an asteroid belt? So there's a bunch of little mini rocks all over the universe, kind of like Super Mario Galaxy. And I just started the world started kind of manifesting itself around her magically almost. And I think that as a writer, you have to just go with it. Other times I have the world. I start with the world, like with Dragon Face. I think I started with the world. Like I thought about what if the richest and most powerful people on the planet are actually dark sorcerers, and what if their magic is powered by the suffering of humanity?
Oh,
And
geez.
I thought about our world and all the suffering that exists now. And sometimes I'm like, why are things so sometimes so bad? Like why does all this stuff why does all this bad stuff keep happening? And I'm like, well, what if somebody's directly profiting from this, but in a magical way, not in a not in like, oh, we're war profiteers and
Right,
we're
right.
pharmaceutical company. Not all, just in general, the essence of suffering is almost suffering is in despair is almost its own invisible currency, like
Sure.
data. And what if someone's harnessing all of that data? Um, and that for their own purposes. So that was the foundation of my dark horror story, Dragon Face. And then I built the characters within that. I built Cornelius, who is a young angsty teenager who wants to rebel against his parents, and rebelling against his parents means killing them because they're the the creators, or they're on the top of this dark pyramid of suffering harnessing.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I created Camille Carter, who is kind of like an amateur detective. I was listening to a podcast and someone was talking about being a corporate content moderator. That was their job. And it was, I think they worked for Facebook or whatever. And their job was to go through all the videos that Facebook uploads, people upload to Facebook, and mark the ones that are inappropriate for people to watch. Or if you flag a video, they have to look at it and verify that it's bad and remove it from the server. And a lot of people think that, I mean, I think now maybe a lot of that stuff is done with AI, but even with the AI, there's still a human component that's
Right.
required to be able to even decipher what the AI might incorrectly flag something, because somebody might
Right.
be doing some weird cosplay or something like that. Long story short, it was a fascinating, I can't even remember what episode of what podcast I was listening to, but I just thought it was fascinating. But they were talking about how the trauma that those people go through. And
Yeah,
I
I
was,
remember. I remember a few years back, somebody. I think it was when they live streamed that like girl getting murdered,
mm,
and that's like when that discourse started. I remember hearing like similar conversations on like various shows and news network and stuff like that. Whereas like there's like this group of people who has to watch this stuff because if anyone,
mhm,
if anyone's video gets flagged and they
right,
challenge it, someone has to physically watch that. So it's like if it
right.
is messed up, they're
Yeah,
seeing messed
they're
up stuff.
exposed to it. So that's how I started with Camille Carter. She's that's her job. She's a person who's sifting through the smut of humanity, um, trying to bring the good to the surface, and she stumbles upon this this dark conspiracy, if you will, of sorcerers who harness human suffering, and that's the beginning of Dragon Face. So
Jeez.
I yeah, it's very
You might have
different.
talked me into it. You might have talked me into it because when I first heard like horror, like I'm not a big horror fan, which is funny because like I spent the last 3 days like half watching Saw with my wife, so you know that is what it is. But like I don't mind like a thriller story. Like I like a good thriller story. What I don't like is when horror goes into like the jump scare or the gore aspect of things like all the time and for no reason.
Right. No,
Right.
I totally understand it. I realized that in order for me to make the story significant, it had to be something that certain people wouldn't like. Um,
Okay.
I
Sure.
actually had a book someone on the someone who has a nice social media following, and does like graphic novel reviews, asked me to if they could review Dragon Face for Halloween, and I was like, sure, absolutely. And then they read it and they got back to me and they're like, actually, I don't think I want to review this.
Damn.
And that was such a great compliment because
Like it just
you know,
disturbed them or
yeah, I think they were a little bit too disturbed by it.
damn.
And you know, once again, especially when you're talking about horror or dark fantasy, if it doesn't make a certain percentage of humanity cringe, then it's not, you might not be going there. But also with weight though, there has to be some, you know, for me,
Right.
there's emotional weight and significance to that story, even though there's some aspects that are, you know, a bit disturbing. Um, so I hope I didn't offend them in any way.
Sure.
You know, but at the same time, once again, I wanted to write something that had poignance, that had weight, you know, that had teeth. Um, and everyone has a line. I always say everyone has a line in their head that they draw,
For
and
sure.
everyone's line is different. You know, some
And
people's line is
it
way up
comes from all
here.
different areas and like a friend of
Absolutely.
mine who runs a comic shop, she was saying that uh she started reading Something is Killing the Children,
Hmm.
but like I think before the end of the first issue she was like, I can't do this, it's deeply disturbing. And she's like, and I have a kid, so like I can't like that,
Right,
I
right,
can't
right.
do this.
Yeah.
So I was like, I get it, like I completely understand it, like I don't have a
Hmm.
kid, so that may not affect me if I read that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
everyone's going to have a different perspective. You know, for me, it's going to be atrocities of war and genocide. Like these are things that I understand. I come from a place that I mean, I came here as a literal refugee. You know, like I escaped a
Right.
war. You know, like
Yeah, wow.
I have certain things like books were made about that conflict where I didn't even realize that I had like trauma until I saw the book on a shelf at a shop at
Wow.
a used bookstore, and I'm sitting there just like skimming through like the indie section, and I hit the book and I almost just started bawling like immediately, like without didn't even realize that I saw the book, and I was
Really?
just like, oh shit, I didn't know that was in there. Oh fuck. I need to calm my
Oh
shit down for a
wow.
second. So like I'm still like, I go to therapy and everything. So it's it's something where I'm working up to reading that book. Like I bought it. I bought it
Hmm.
that day.
Hmm.
But I know that I'm just not prepared to read it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's one of those, it's when it because what I do is, I mean, you see the collection back here. I have a lot of books. I
Hmm.
get choice fatigue or choice paralysis, whatever you call it.
Hmm.
So I decided I roll dice and flip coins to read.
Wow.
So
Nice.
I let the as I always like to go back to the Nellyville, which is one of my favorite tracks off the Nellyville album, is the first song.
Hmm.
But he says the dice gonna do what the dice gonna do, you know, like
Yeah, no, big
you know,
facts.
And
Yeah,
so
no,
for me, it's
you
like I let the universe speak to me, and I get to read what I get to read because I pick up, like you said, like you saw, I pick up a lot of weird stuff and different stuff that I've never heard of before, and it's like, am I ever going to get to that if I'm like, oh man, I just picked up the new X-Men, like I want to read that, or I would just picked
hmm
up this, like like I still haven't read this Fantastic Four, with Alex Ross, but like I know that would have been like, man, I know I love me some Alex Ross art, like I would have picked that over. I think I don't know if it was the same week or whatever, but it's like if I'd been forced to choose myself, it would have taken me half an hour to do it because I've been like sitting here being like, oh, that's cool, shit. Which one do I want? Well, and I would have picked something mainstream, but more than likely. And
hmm
then I would have left. There's this clown book. I forgot I had it, but it landed on this clown book, and it's like, I think it's called Made Up, like Killer Clowns Made Up or something like that.
hmm
And it's like a circus story, and the clowns are like the clowns in the circus are killing people, but it's like it turns out that it's like the makeup that they use to like do the clown makeup is what's driving them insane.
Hmm.
And it's a very quick read. It's not like it's kind of gory, but it's not really. It's like it's like bordering on funny, but it somehow maintains seriousness while being
Hmm.
bordering on funny. It's like a weirdly interesting book, and I don't know
That
when I
sounds
would have
cool.
picked that.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. I like your method. Because it's exciting to get a new. You don't know what you're gonna get. You're letting fate. You're letting the dice go. You're letting the dice do what they gonna do.
Right.
Um. So that's awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why and sometimes if it's like something I've read recently, if it lands on that, I'll wild card it and be like, all right, now I'm gonna go to the indie shelf, or I'm gonna go to the X-Men shelf, like whatever I'm feeling in that moment. And sometimes like I'll land on something and it's like, I read this 6 months ago. I fully remember the story. I know exactly, like, so I'm like, I'm gonna roll again, or depending on what the mood is. But it's like I'm taking out a big chunk of the early process of me just turning around being like, oh, what should I take to work to read? And then it's like staring at the shelf for who knows how long. I was
Oh,
re-blasting
nice.
through Dragon Slayer, and I really actually really enjoyed it. It was so super fast when I first read it. It read so fast that I was like, oh shit, I want more.
Yeah. Drone Slayer, we released the first issue, and it's the only book that we released, aka a floppy, a single issue. It is an Afro-futuristic Afro-tech comic, and you got the first 30, I think it's 37 pages. We were supposed to have the second issue out very soon afterwards, but we had a delay. There were some issues with the artist, and I wanted to maintain consistency. I will have you know, we are in production on the second chapter, which is going to be a
Dick.
whopping 40 plus pages.
Okay,
So it's being
I like that.
illustrated right now. So you're going to get the second half of that story. Hopefully Q1 next year.
Okay.
And we can finish off that issue. But yeah, just for your fans, what is this all about? So it's about the world's greatest robotics engineer, Kofi Corsa. He lives in Ghana, and his disabled daughter has to learn how to use his cutting edge technology before a group of revolutionaries steal it and start off an international war. So I kept thinking about, um, my father's from Ghana, and I always thought about technology in Ghana and in Africa, and specifically robotics was something that always interested me. And I felt like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if there was just this brilliant technician, like, or a brilliant scientist who lived there, and his technology was the best in the world. And I guess the whole angle that I wanted to kind of go with was, kind of like the way that diamonds are mined, and the way that people kind of create this whole blood warfare, blood diamonds, um, warfare. But what if it was like that, but over like this special type of robotics technology? and at the center we have Kisi Corsa, who she's a hero, but she doesn't know it. You know, she's a star. She's much stronger than she even realizes, and she's just going to be thrust into the middle of this war that her father is unfortunately caught up in. And I had a lot of fun working with my wife actually on this story. So shout out my wife Nicole. Um, and I feel a little bit bad that we don't have the second issue yet because it's so cool what actually happens because this issue is really all just kind of set up as you can
It
see, and you
really is.
wanted
It
more.
really is. When I turned the page and it said playing a whole new game, and then it said chapter one over, I was like, no, what do you mean over? We just
Yeah,
started.
right, right. So, you know, the other books that I've done, Kimi Cosmic and Dragon Face, we released 5 issues in the graphic novel. And it's for that same reason. Um, here's Dragon Face here, what we just spoke about. And of course, we won't be able to see it. And Kimi Cosmic, these are the graphic novels that I'm showing you. This is the Kimi Cosmic graphic novel. These are 5 issue graphic novels, 130 pages each. And what I was trying to avoid is that cliffhanger effect that you experience with Drone Slayer,
Right.
where you get that one chapter and you're like, wait a minute, where's the rest of it? I mean, manga, that's one of the reasons why manga is very accessible and also very successful is that they release volumes. They don't chop their stories up into chapters. And
Here they
the
don't, but
whole
that's the thing. Over there they do. Over there it's all
they
still
do.
released individually. So like Shonen Jump, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's the magazine. Uh, they release like 20 different titles in a volume of Shonen Jump, and
Oh,
they
okay.
put those out, and then they collect it. We just get it
Mm-hmm.
here as a volume because they're like, because
Oh,
importing magazines is real fucking expensive.
but
Like if you ever buy a magazine
I
that
see what
wasn't
you're
made
saying.
in the US, that shit is like $20.
But here's the thing: but each magazine, but it's still multiple chapters in one volume in one magazine, right?
I don't believe so because they say it's 20. Because I did the math, right? They said it's about roughly on average uh 20 titles per 500-ish volume, 500-ish page issue of Shonen Jump. And if you break that down, you end up about 25 pages, 26 pages. So it's like
Right.
you're ending,
No. I know. I understand what you're saying, but each Shonen Jump volume is roughly like you just said 500 pages, right?
yeah, but it's
I
20
think
different
that
titles.
right. I think that's brilliant. I think that would be cool. I think returning to a magazine style for Marvel and DC would make sense. Like if they did
Dude,
the same
I'd
thing,
love a Marvel, like the monthly Marvel comic,
a
and
monthly
it's
Marvel
everything.
magazine just has everything in it, and then you know the best titles or whatever. I think that's great because A, it's going to expose you to more stories, right? Um, B, you know, the things that are really good, you can still collect those in graphic novels and hardcovers and omnibuses and all that type of stuff. Um, I just think that the whole floppy thing is really just more for collecting, and you know, for me, I do short runs of floppies because I know it takes a while to produce a large graphic novel. At least,
Right,
especially at the indie scale, we're a little bit slower than mainstream
right,
comic book guys, right? They can put out 12 issues a year for each character, right? It's hard. It's going to be very hard for an independent
right. Well,
creator
they've
or
got
even
the
team
they've
of
got the
creators.
the
Right? They got the
economy of
machine,
scale.
right? So so I do floppies because you know it's like, all right, well, I should give you something, but I try to do shorter runs of those, whereas really I really consider myself to be a graphic novel producer. So Kimi Cosmic, that's why the first 5 issues of Kimi Cosmic and Dragon Face, I made them as graphic novels first because that's what I wanted. And actually, that Drone Slayer that you have, I'm not going to reprint. You know, once the second issue of Drone Slayer comes out, the only way you're going to be able to read that story is in the collected volume.
Or
Um,
digital, of course.
right, or digitally, right. So,
Gotta
yeah.
love the digital. That's why that's the
Well,
accessibility for me. Like I, as you see, I collect trades. I have a very limited floppy collection, and even that only just started because I found I think it's called Captain Canuck or something dumb. It's not even no, not Captain Canuck, but it's something like that. It's some like Canadian themed hero.
I
But it
think
had I found a
I've seen a
volume
comic called.
and it had one issue. And I looked it up, and the other that like extra issue was never collected. So I was like, oh, you sons of bitches. So I just put them next to each other on the shelf. So it's like that's the only reason I have that. And then I recently ended up buying it was a title. I already forgot it. It's behind me. Let's see if I can get it. Um I'm so curious to see if you'll remember this. Because I saw this in ads in Wizard and I was like, oh my god, this looks so fucking cool. Right here. Soul Sorcerer.
Wow.
It's so dope. I realized after I was like checking uh about this is the second volume. There was a first 5 issue run. Trying to think what the like this was I think the most known cover from the first one, but or from the second volume, but from the first volume, I'm gonna see if I can get a close up here for you. From the first volume, this is the one that I always remember. This there we go. This right here with the like he's holding like I don't know if she's dead or injured or what, and there's this like giant bird dude with fire. I remember seeing that in the magazine and I was like, oh my god, I have to have this book. And I think at some point I had like 1 or 2 issues, but I never had a full run. And I was at a con recently and I was like, when am I going to see this book as a set all at once? So I just grabbed the whole stack. And then when I opened it up, I was like, this is volume 2. There's still 5 more issues to buy. But like supposedly it claims there was a trade of the first volume, but I have found no evidence of that
Can't
ever
find it.
actually existing.
Interesting.
But yeah,
Well,
my
that's awesome.
floppy collection is so little, but that's why I advocate for digital so heavily because it's like digital is cheap. Digital is basically free money if you're indie. It's basically free money. If you are already going to print, regardless, digital is free money. Because the people who weren't going to back or were like, I don't know, if you got a $5 tier for your book for digital, they'll cop a PDF for
It,
$5, $10.
it-
Like it's
yeah.
like an easy sell. That becomes an impulse buy.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
somebody's like, oh, this floppy, I gotta store it. I need box space or shelf space or drawer space. It becomes a bigger a logistical thing for them and you because now you gotta package it, you gotta ship it, whereas digital, just drop a PDF in the email.
No,
or
for
or if
sure.
you're real lazy, you drop a PDF link in an update on the Kickstarter. You don't even have to send individual emails.
Yeah, it's yeah, no, you're 100% right. It, I find that most readers don't like digital. I think it only accounts for a smaller percentage. It's kind of crazy because I used to be a digital comic books fanatic. I basically read digital comics exclusively for about 10 years. So what
Oh
happened was
wow.
I had a huge comic book collection, and then I moved to New York about 20 years ago. I moved to Brooklyn about 20 years ago, and when I did, I moved to a tiny apartment. I didn't have any room, and in one fell swoop, I sold like 80% of my comic book collection.
I feel
And
that. I've been
I
there.
I took the money and I repurchased all the books I sold digitally because
Damn.
I wanted to be able to read
So
them.
your comicsology collection is huge.
It's psycho. My comicsology collection is psycho. And then what happened was when comicsology sold out to Amazon and it just basically just absorbed it into Kindle.
Right.
Um, everything it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. Like it didn't like I still have all my books,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't
Until they decide you no longer do.
right. Exactly,
And
exactly.
that's that
And
that
I
and I feel that for like buying from a mainstream platform like that. I
right,
fully understand the feeling of that because it's
yeah,
like we've seen with movies and TV shows, they will just decide to be like, get rid of it. Get
yeah,
free
exactly,
up the server space or whatever their
exactly.
bullshit logic
I,
is.
I'm I'm not even 100% sure my entire collection ported. They could have taken books out of my collection for some rights reasons, and I don't even realize that I lost them. And then also the fact I couldn't share my account anymore because with Comixology I would share my account with friends And I would get people to become comic book fans. I'd be like, "Oh, you never read Y the Last Man? Oh,
Oh, I
here's my
didn't know that
comicsology
was a
account. Check
thing.
this out." And they would do. I mean, well, listen, it's like sharing your Netflix password, but with comicsology, they didn't crack down on that. You could literally download that app and log in to a unlimited amount of different devices and read your comic collection. Now I can't do that with Amazon
If
because
you
I can't
have
share your.
Prime, yes, you can.
You can
You
share
can
your
create
login.
you can create a family and
Oh,
share with one other adult and kids, like a
okay,
certain amount
okay.
of kids, teenagers or whatever.
I do
The
have
only reason I
Prime.
know that is because I shared my Prime with my wife.
Okay, all right. That's good to know. So, okay. Well, at least I could do something like that.
A little
But
workaround, a little bit of workaround.
right, right. It is a workaround. But
Amazon will just think that you were just going through partners.
right, right, exactly.
They were like, this guy's
Um,
on his third partner in
I,
6 months. What is happening? They just send you a
but
care package, like, you good, bro? Like,
no, for sure, for sure. But yeah, it just left this like bad taste in my mouth where I was like, man, I don't really own these digital comics. And then what I realized is all the comics, all the cool indie comics that I wanted to read, like most of these creators weren't really digital. And even if they were digital, I'm not a PDF guy. Like I like if I'm going to buy a digital comic, I'm either going to have it in Amazon where I can do the panel by panel read, or it'll be in a webtoon where it's like formatted like that. The PDF thing is cool, but at that point, I'm just like, you know what? I might as well just buy the indie comic. And now because I know the money's going to the creator, and now I can get a physical book that has that's tangible. And a lot of these books, I love the print. Like certain, I love to look at other comic book creators and how they print their books. Just because it gives me influence and understanding and a little bit and more ideas. So now I'm into physical print now again. So and now I have space to store them because now
well,
I have a house now. Whereas when I
that's
was
huge. Well,
twenty years
that's
ago,
a
I was in the
huge thing.
yeah.
Because
So
I did the same thing as you, man. I had a 36 short boxes. Um,
wow,
yeah, I had 30. I had a big
nice.
ass collection. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it a buck 50 and change. I stole most of that. Not most. Let me rephrase that. I stole like 6 boxes. I used to run a shop, and I came into work one day, and I'm setting up for it's Wednesday. It's new comic book day. I'm setting up or whatever. Pop the register to make sure the cash is there. No cash in the register. Call the owner. Hey, there's no cash in the register. How am I supposed to make change? And he's like, "Oh, I sold the shop on Monday." And I was like, "Excuse me? I'm here. I drove 30 minutes from where I live because I had to move far out because I can't afford rent here. So I drove 30 minutes to work so I could make a little dollars to pay rent out there. You couldn't have called me on Monday, motherfucker." And he's like, "Oh, let me call the new owner, see if he's going to keep you on." And he calls me back 20, 30 minutes later or whatever. He's like, "Hey, leave the keys in the register. Uh, give him a call next week and you can talk to him." And I was like, "Fuck this dude." And I went and just grabbed the boxes with all the dope shit on them. And I filled the back of my 89 Integra. I was like, "Fuck this dude, man." I was so mad.
Did he ever try to come after you?
Nah, he didn't know they were gone. He had no fucking clue. I was running the
Oh, right,
shop. He had
right,
barely
right.
any idea what was in there.
Nice.
Yeah, but like I had probably 25 to 26 of them were mine. Like I purchased them, but like that last like 10 was probably from the.
What were some of the books that were in there?
I had the Battle Chasers run. I had a big chunk of like 90s X-Men stuff. Stuff that like bunch of like foil covers and shit like that I was really, really deep into. Like I really just grabbed shit that I was really, really into. It wasn't like random boxes because we were like about to move over to a bigger space, so we had moved a ton of the inventory over there. So I knew what was in each box, and like
Mm-hmm.
the last 5 boxes right by the door that I had brought in like the week before,
Mm-hmm.
because again, I'm the one doing the work. Um, I knew what was in them because I had packed them. So I was like, well, I know what's in this one, taking that. Like,
Mm-hmm. Nice.
but like, and I had to sell it all. There was a space issue, it was all in a tiny closet, and my girlfriend moved in with me at the time. It was me, my girlfriend, and my mom. And there's just no physical space. We needed the space. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to open up this closet. Sold it, pennies on the dollar. Like, ugh, disgusting. I don't even like think about it. But it was one of those situations where it was like, all right, when I do have the space, I'm going to just do collections. That way, I can have a full run. I don't love the hunt for like missing issues, because at the time, those 36 boxes, I'd have a run of 9, missing the 10th one. I'd have, the next 12, missing the next 13th. I hated that, because it's like, you gotta go, you gotta dig. And it's because I'm a completionist. And I think that if I had kept doing singles, that would have driven me insane. Because as a completionist, I want to have the whole run in order. So for me, it's like, if I get the annual, I got to figure out between which of these issues does this annual go. And that's what these solve for me, for the most part, when they're done well. I'm not gonna lie, some of the omnis, some of the collections and trades from the majors, not great, not a great collection.
Really?
But in some cases, outstanding. Like when
what's your favorite omnibus collection?
I gotta give it. You know what? I read it. The dice landed on it early this year, or mid last year, whatever. Right after I got it. The Squadron Supreme omnibus. It is done expertly, I think almost flawlessly.
What are some of the things that they do that makes it so impressive?
It took you as a reader through the entire like character lifespan, like from almost like a third party perspective, to then bringing you into their world and taking you through their story almost the entire way, skipping a few like kind of minor things, minor appearances. But it was like the first things it gives you were the Squadron Sinister issues from Avengers, which was like, I forget what the villain was, but one of the villains had like copied the actual heroes, the actual Squadron Supreme from their world, had created these like duplicates of the Squadron Supreme and call them the Squadron Sinister to attack the Avengers. So you see them first. You see like the setup, and then you like follow them back to their world, and it's like the dupes show up. They got to kind of like take care of the dupe Hyperion, and it's this whole story, and you're following throughout their entire run. So the original Avengers appearances, Defenders appearances, which I didn't even know they appeared in Defenders, and then into their miniseries from the 80s, which is like very good, very interesting. It's almost like almost like a smarter The Boys. It's like a smarter Watchmen. I don't know about a smarter Watchmen, but like same vein as Watchmen. Let's say it's like a different tone than Watchmen, but a similar concept of like they decide they're going to take over because like no one can keep their shit straight. So they're like, we're going to take over. We're going to manage this planet. And their Batman Nighthawk is like the resistance, if you will. And then it takes them with the destruction of that universe, out of that universe, into back the main Marvel universe, and like you follow them through this whole process, and then you see the conflict with them in like 97 after the heroes returned, and it's just like a really well put together like arc. You're like with them on this journey, and
interesting.
And then it hits like the most recent appearances up until the point of the printing, and that was the ultimate like the what is it? Because it wasn't called Supreme Power. It was Supreme Power Ultimate Universe crossover. And it started with like issue 7. And I was like, why the fuck is it starting with issue 7? Like, I don't even understand. And then I realized the end of issue 7 is when they come into that story. So from their perspective, the rest of that story is irrelevant.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, that is such an interesting way to approach the collecting of this. Because you could have just collected that whole 9-issue run. But they're like, nah, they're like, this doesn't have anything to do directly with them. This next, like this part of the story is this like when Fury and whoever else like are like, shit, we need to figure out a way to stop these guys from fighting. And they're like, we just bring in another fucking group of people. Like it's like a desperation move, but they bring in the Squadron Supreme. And I was like, damn, that's actually a really good way. But in between stuff, so like the little minor appearances that they skip, you get like an info page. Oh, they stayed at Project Pegasus. They interacted with Wendell Quasar. you know, and like all this like little stuff that like this happened a few you know, they mentioned a few times, like almost like little wiki entries of the stuff that they're
To
not going to
kind of
show.
like the connective tissue between the
Yeah.
different story arcs.
Yeah, they did a similar thing in the trade collections for like the Onslaught run, where it's like between these two issues is what happened. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
entering this next part, this is what you need to know. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that. I love that kind of stuff. Every once in a while, you're gonna get something that's just kind of like smashed together all the issues, and you just got to deal
Mm-hmm.
with it. But what I like, and, you know, like we were talking before we started recording, like I'm a process junkie. I love seeing the little interesting parts of it. Like I, there's a fucking omnibus that I paid way too much for that I literally don't think they're gonna reprint. That's why I ended up paying too much for it. But it's the Eve of Destruction X-Men trade, and it's the literal like run right before the Morrison era, like before when Morrison came on, it was right before that. And they included it was at the time it was called X-Men Forever. So before Claremont came back and did his like what if I had kept writing in the 90s X-Men Forever,
Mm-hmm.
they did an X-Men Forever that was like, let's kind of like synergize it to the cinematic stuff. Like it wasn't real synergy, but that like at the end of it, Mystique turns like scaly, like she was in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm reading, and I'd never actually like I'd read it years ago, like bootleg digital, like scans. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't remember any of it, but I was reading it and I was like, damn, actually like they covered the Great and Creed story and all this stuff. And I get to one page and I was like, does the color look weird? And then I realized it was a scanned comic page. And I was like, oh shit, they must have lost the file. Because like I looked the page before, I looked the page after, perfectly, you know, freshly printed or, you know, clean colors. But like I'm looking at it and I could see the like paper grain from the like 90s or early 2000s print pages. And I was like, oh shit, they had to scan this. I'm like, this is fucking hilarious. Because I remember back in the like beginning of the bootleg era, Marvel was just like knuckle boxing with these scan sites, man. It was like a new X-Men scan site would go up, a week later, Marvel would shut it down. And this was just the fight the whole time. And so I was just laughing. I was like, they had to use the same tactics. Like, this is
Wow.
awesome. And then,
Wow.
so, you know, I finished that issue. And then the entire next issue from that story is scanned. And then,
Wow.
so then I was just like, oh man, they lost a shit ton of files. Oh, and it was just like, it kind of like almost humanized like the organization of Marvel for me a little bit because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
these motherfuckers, as big as they are, they still don't have backups. Like, you know, when I lost my 6 months of email, I was like, stop it's even to the bigger ones. It wasn't just like I wasn't just a fucking amateur about it. Like, I was like, you know, like a little bit of justice. Like they fucked up too. You know, as big as they are, as many fucking IT people and all this other shit they have, they still fuck up. They still lost some files or whatever. So like, yeah, no, it's there's I'm a like I said fan of the behind the scenes stuff and the interesting little quirks of the comic book production process. Like that's why I collect art books and sketchbooks. That's why I tell artists who are, you know, they do covers and prints and stuff at conventions. I'm like, you got to do an art book because, like, you see right here, that's my
Mm-hmm.
stack of prints, my two or three print books. Because like I got prints, I framed them, and then I was like, I don't have any fucking wall space left, so I started putting them in a book, and then I was like 2 books deep, and they were just getting thicker, and I was never opening them to look at them. So I was like, because they're massive fucking books. So I was like, I'm never gonna open these things. So I was like, I'm just not gonna buy prints anymore. So I started telling people like, I was like, sketchbooks, art books, like this is my shit. This is the only floppy shit that's in my house that's not, you know, like the rare exceptions. Like I love looking through sketchbooks and like process art books. Like I forget, I bought a trade recently and it was just like I thought it was just like a regular trade. And I happened to flip to the back and I was like, oh shit, there's bonus material, like character
Yeah.
sketches. Like I love that shit. Like
Yeah, I love that shit too, man.
if it's a
I
hardcover,
definitely.
that is like one of my litmus tests for indie hardcovers. If I get an indie hardcover, I gotta open the back first and I gotta see some
Mm.
bonus material. It
Oh
can be as
yeah, no,
simple as some
absolutely.
scripts with some notes
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Something, you know, I want to see it. I want to see a little
yeah,
bit of extra. It doesn't have to be a ton. It doesn't have to be a whole ass art book in the back, but just seeing that,
but
you know,
yeah,
it wasn't just I didn't just get a harder cover and that's the only
right.
difference.
With just the pages smashed in there. Nope, I absolutely agree with you, man. 100%.
So the reason I reached out is because I saw that you had a new campaign coming out. Kimi Cosmic, is it a new issue or is it a new volume? Because you were talking about, you've got the first
Yes,
5 as a
yes.
volume.
All right, so let's talk about it. So as we mentioned, Kimi Cosmic Space Cowboy graphic novel, and I'm gonna go crazy about this blurry camera thing, man. You said put it right next to me, put it right
Like
in
put
front
like
of my
right, yeah,
face.
right in front of you. There you go.
It like comes in a frame for like a half second, and it
Yeah,
goes
right.
out. That's what bothers. I don't know. I see it. See, there we go.
Oh, right
Okay,
there.
I'm not gonna move. All right. So Kimi Cosmic, you guys can't see the pages. All right.
Damn, that's all
Anyway.
right.
She's a space cowboy who has to unravel the mystery of her half-human heritage to prevent an evil corporation from enslaving her people. So we did the first 5 issue graphic novel that we released earlier this year, and that will be available on this campaign. But what we're releasing on this campaign is issue 6 and issue 7.
No, okay. Oh, you got it
So we
ready.
have two. Yep. So we're talking about the floppies. So yeah, if I move them around, you
And
can
they're
kind of see
completed.
them.
And they're completed already.
Yeah, yeah, they're completed. Um, I realized for me as an independent creator, finishing the book is kind of like the hardest part. And then once I do that, I can focus on the marketing and promotion.
I feel
So
that.
I'll have a book done and printed in hand for sometimes a couple months before I even sell it. So that is just for me to be able to spend time and energy formatting a promotion plan or whatnot. So we have that these 2 issues, and the cool thing about these 2 issues, 6 and 7, is that they kind of complete the first real story arc of Kimi Cosmic. I mean, the first graphic novel had the first 5 issues, and it kind of ended at a cliffhanger. These 2
Mm.
issues kind of land the plane, and they're like action packed, and I'm really excited. Really can't wait for people to read these issues.
And of
And we're
course, we'll have the
doing
link to that in the description or the show notes if you're listening. And do you have a direct link or
yeah, I do have a direct link, so I'll send that to you so
perfect,
you can
perfect.
get it.
And of course, you could
But
always,
this
if you don't want to use the links, you could always just search Kimi Cosmic on Kickstarter.
right. But this is what I really want to show you. You like gold
Ooh,
foil stuff, right?
okay.
I'm gonna I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna see if I take myself completely out of the picture, right?
Let's see.
And give it nothing to focus on but the comic. It's still kind of doing the so this is a special edition rose gold foil
Ooh,
Kimmy Cosmic #1.
dang. I see the shine. I see the shine. I saw the belt buckle shiny.
Why? There we go.
So the what I've
Um,
seen with these is, so if you leave your face in frame, so like if you lean back a little bit, put it up against your chest, that might get a little bit
okay.
better. Because I think if it sees your face, if it sees your face and it knows that that's that, because it's trying to isolate you. So you put it like here, chest wise, with your face in the frame. Yeah,
Oh, okay. That is working, actually. Good call. Okay, so this is the back cover. This is the front
nice.
cover.
I like the shine. Big fan.
It's
I like
rose
that belt
gold.
buckle.
Yeah. So this is Kimmy Cosmic #1, rose gold foil special edition. That will
Nice.
be on the campaign. And then one other gem that I have for you is we're doing another special edition Drone Slayer #1. So this is the issue that you already have digitally, but this is the special grass
Nice.
cutter grass cutter queen cover. Oh, that's right. You did tell me to put it on my chest, but then I gotta turn my camera. There we go.
There you go.
So this is the grass cutter queen
Nice.
cover. Drone Slayer. I really like this cover actually. It's pretty pretty cool. So yeah,
That's dope.
that's a lot of different books, but really it's a Kimi Cosmic campaign. But because Drone Slayer is gonna get its own campaign, I had this new print done, so I wanted to include it in this campaign. Um,
Hey,
but
I'm a firm believer in add-on everything. Everything should be
right,
an
right.
add-on. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell everybody, every podcast from now on. Even if it's just a digital only tier,
Hmm.
have every single add-on available, even physical add-ons, because
Yeah,
let me as the consumer decide if I want to buy that version of Drone Slayer with my digital copy of issue 6 and 7 of Kimi Cosmic. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me as the
absolutely.
consumer decide. Like, you can have your pre-built tiers, and there's going to be people who are just going to hit the tier button, boom, 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 next, 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 because there's people who don't want to deal with the add-ons, and I get that. That's what the
Mhm.
tiers are for. But if you are like myself, you're going to be, if you got if you're trading cards, somebody got $75 out of me off of some trading cards. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I bought the digital comics and I was like, wait a minute, you got trading cards. Scroll down, add on. Like it's different people have like different things like catch their eye. For me, it's you got to have your entire library available either as add-ons or as a catch-up tier or studio tier, whatever you want to call it, and you got to have everything available for all tiers because somebody might pick up, the hardcover of something or the trade paperback of something and be like, all right, well, let me like throw on the two singles digitally, like myself, like I would be, let's say I was buying Kimi Cosmic, I'd be like, I'm gonna get the trade, I'm gonna grab the two digitals because I don't collect singles if you've got trades. And then, oh, let's say you had, I don't know, let's say you had like a dope print, or let's say you had like a sketch cover or a sketch inside the book. Cool, I can add that on without having to buy the like $150 tier with the sketch. You know what I'm saying? With all the books. So like just the options, allowing the options for the people that are spending the money. Because I've had people real quick, like I actually jumped on this morning or yesterday, I don't even remember. Jeff Schiller's campaign for I forget the damn name, Magic Powder. And I was like, hey, I missed the last issue. Make with the digital add-on single issues because he had like, oh, you could add on the entire stack of back issues, but I already had them. So I was like, well, I already have the trade. I already have the trade digitally. I don't need the full stack of back issues. I just need one back issue, the one
Right,
between
right.
the new one and the trade. So I was like, hey, add those on. And he's like, you got it. And that was it. And then I've had people fight me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
why won't
let
you
let
let me
let,
give
let
you
the
more money?
consumers. Yeah, some people are control freaks like that. They don't want to be flexible. Listen, I'm super flexible when it comes to that type of stuff. So, I agree. Let the consumer decide. As long as I got it, you can buy it, and I will. And usually, if someone wants to work out a deal or do something different, I'm always trying to encourage that because that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it. You want to make sure your consumer has a good experience and has a fun time. So yeah, yeah, I had a guy who at the last convention I did in Newark, I had a guy come to me, and every time I try to like close out the sale, he was like, why aren't you getting upselling me? And I was like, what? He was like, Sell me more." He kept saying like, "Dude, you're not
Was
you're not you're
was he
not
a
taking
bald
advantage."
white dude with glasses? I know him. I know him. I know that dude. His name's Henri Compon, man. Like he's always like, you got to sell everything. I've
Yeah.
seen that dude work.
So he ended up buying my whole everything. He bought all my books. Plus, I think he got a
Nice.
T-shirt, and like I gave him like a T-shirt, a bunch of stickers, Dragon Face, Kimmy Cosmic, Drone Slayer. It was a whole situation. So that was really dope because yeah, a lot of people definitely want to be able to do that. So oh, quick shout out for the people who are in the New York City area. I am doing Anime NYC next week. So I don't know
Okay.
when you're gonna post this.
This is
By
gonna
the way.
drop Thursday. So that's
Okay,
gonna
that's
be the
perfect. That's actually
17th, 18th,
perfect.
19th, that
Right.
weekend.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
Perfect.
So this is perfect timing then. Yes. So um I will this weekend I will be at Anime NYC at my table. You can come check me out. I'm doing signings. I'm gonna have one of my artists there. doing some live artwork. And you will have access to these books that are going on the Kimi Cosmic
Ooh.
um or I'm sorry,
Well,
on the Kickstarter. A couple of the books that are going to Kickstarter. I'm gonna, if you ask me very nicely, I might, let you see.
there might be
Yeah,
a box of just, special conversation pieces.
yeah. I mean, come on, who doesn't want a rose gold Kimmy Cosmic cover? Pretty sweet. I
It's
got
a
some
nice
exclusive
cover.
prints too.
It reminds me of the oh, I don't have them reachable. It reminds me of the Power Rangers covers that Dan Mora did. The
Yeah,
like where it's just
I know
like that
exactly
kind
the
of
ones that just their chest cut.
yeah.
There's also a Miss Marvel.
Oh yes,
Um,
of
yeah,
course.
one
Legendary.
that I that's actually inspired that.
And that's that's a great call out for this weekend. We got look,
Yeah.
all I know is ever since they said they were doing a Captain Marvel movie back in the day, like 2016, whenever the hell they announced it, I posted on Facebook, I posted, I hope it's Monica. Hashtag my Captain Marvel is black. Because when I started reading comics, Captain Marvel was black. She was a
Right,
woman,
right,
and it
right.
was a dope era. And then they brought in
Yes.
Legacy and whatever his whole run, and
Yeah.
it was a decent run.
Yeah.
It was a good run.
Yeah.
But I always remember the funniest bits of that were her. She sat down with him to be like, why you steal my name? And then when he
Yeah.
came back in Thunderbolts, he started calling himself Photon, and she's like, why you steal my name again?
Yeah, it's fun. Well, did you see the Marvels?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, all right. So I got to see.
We scheduled it for a couple weeks from now because we got
Okay,
other stuff
so
going
so
on.
okay, cool, cool. So it's funny because my wife actually cosplayed as Photon a couple years ago,
Nice.
and for Halloween, and she was like, "Yeah, so what is her name again?" And I was like, well, she's Photon. She's also Captain Marvel. She's also, well, I think,
Spectrum.
Binary. She's also Spectrum. And she's like, so what's her name? And it's funny because when you see the movie, they play into that in a very interesting way. Let's just say that
That's awesome.
they're very conscious of the fact that she has multiple superhero
That's
names. So
that's awesome. I love to hear that.
I really like how they handled that.
I wanted more than nothing because um, I'm trying to think, probably my favorite, like top three Monicas is Mighty Avengers Monica, where she
Mm,
shows up and Dr. Bashir saves her, and she says, "You can call me. You saved my life, Dr. Bashir. You can call me Monica." And then she just
mm,
looks up and they take that Janet Jackson or Spectrum if you nasty. And I was like, yes, that's so dope.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah. She's always been a. I always thought she had one of the cool, gnarly. I love the '70s Captain Marvel costume. It was so disco,
Yeah.
It
Oh
was
yeah.
so like it was so cool looking, and as a cosmic character, it was really awesome. So yeah, no, I mean, I had fun with the movie. I don't want to give a review. I know that's not what we're talking about, but yeah, in regards to her as a character, that it's definitely interesting how they handle the name thing. But actually, also, I'm a huge Marvel Snap player. I don't know if you play Marvel Snap, but
I don't know
or
what it
if you know,
is. Like I don't
okay,
understand it.
it's a it's a card, it's an online card game. It's poker if your cards had superpowers. That's what it is.
Okay,
So
that's the
imagine,
best description anyone's given
yes,
me. Everyone tries to give me
that's
this like
Marvel.
complex description, but I know what poker is. That's a good
That's Marvel
description.
Snap. It's poker if your cards have superpowers.
Okay.
So they have so Spectrum,
Sorry about that.
so Monica is one of the cards, and I was wondering what names they use, and they use Spectrum. They call it Spectrum and Marvel Snap, which is interesting.
I love
So
Spectrum.
yeah. So I'm like, I guess that's what, but they also call Spider Gwen, they call her Ghost Spider, which I think is a super cool name, but they
I
don't
love
call her
Ghost
Ghost
Spider.
Spider. They call her Spot. Bothered me. Kept calling her Spider Woman in Spider-Verse, but I'm going to
Yeah,
hope that in the next one that she gets to earn her Ghost Spider moniker. I'm hoping, or
I
maybe
like
not.
because I like Ghost Spider because the but like there's like lore behind it, right? I I was gonna say I like this. I like the story of the comic book Spider Verse better, but
Mm,
I like way better the centering of Miles because the comic book Spider Verse like yeah like it's centered on Peter, but like kind of barely, and it was kind of
mm,
like it was just here's a bunch of spiders and like bunch of different shit happening, and then it's like, oh Peter, go do some shit, and then it's like we're doing spider girls over here and spider women in this one, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like I love the different spider people, and I think having Miles be the center of the Spider-Verse movies makes the story way more like easily digestible because it's
mm-hmm,
like you have a main character. But I would
mm-hmm,
say Spider-Verse, Spider-Geddon in the comics, just no main character. Like it's like
mm-hmm,
these villains are gonna kill us all. We all
mm-hmm.
gotta fight. And it's like the coolest moments are not with 616 Peter Parker. Like
Interesting.
almost at all. Like I don't think the only moment I can think of that like even has to do with him is when Superior Spider-Man shows up and he's like, "Oh, you win or whatever. Like you somehow you beat me." And like that's the moment. But it's like the only reason that's interesting is because it's the Superior Spider-Man. It's Doc Ock Spider-Man. So it's like I like that character way more than Spider-Verse Peter Parker because it's kind of like I don't care. I care way more about all the other characters, like Cosmic Spider-Man with the fucking sword vigor. Ah, such a great moment. But like it
Interesting.
had nothing to do with 616 Peter Parker. Like, um, or was that Miles that had sword vigor? Miles called up sword vigor, I think, in Spider-Geddon. Anyway, my point is it's a lot more disjointed. There's a lot more different characters and stories happening. Whereas in the Spider-Verse movies, it's like it's about Miles, this like kind of budding romance. I love that was like somehow poorly received with the second one. Like people, certain people, Dr. Umar, had like a real big problem with him having a relationship with a white woman. And I was like, because you don't read comics, bro. Like there was a whole thing. Like they didn't date or nothing, but like there was a kiss. They like explored the possibility, but they were like, we're still young. Let's just let shit happen. And they kind of
Right,
went their
right,
separate
right,
ways.
right.
But it's like I just thought it was funny that there were people that had like such a visceral reaction. I'm like, but these are teenagers. Like that's what they do. They hook up. Like
I'm not surprised the internet has a visceral reaction to anything.
right.
That's a, that's
I have to
all.
like stay off Twitter and TikTok for the next month. I feel like because I feel like I'm gonna get even more of the Marvel spoiled. 3 days ago, I found out what the post credits was.
Oh yeah, people
Yeah,
were
I was mad as
they yeah.
fuck.
I honestly have never seen a post credit scene be spoiled that quickly. Like
Pre-release,
it was actually spoiled.
someone's getting off a list. Someone's getting
They
cut off a
they
list.
they reported it like weeks ago, and I was like, what? Yeah, I mean, it's still awesome when you see it, but it's unfortunate, but that got spoiled.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I knew about the Flash, the end of the Flash, well before I saw the movie because I wasn't going to give Ezra Miller any of my money, or DC honestly because they've been kind of fucking up. So I didn't go see it in theaters, and somebody was like, "Oh, well, you could like buy it digital, like it's available for digital purchase." I'm like, I don't want to sully my hard drive with that. Like I'm going to stream it, and that way it's gone off my network forever. And look, I had a fun time with that movie, but like it's bad. It's bad. It's ugly. I'll be honest, the like cameo shit was the most interesting part of it.
Oh, interesting.
And like The Flash is not a good movie. Like I said, I had fun with it. There's like some interesting funny jokes, but like it looks like shit. Like my wife, who is not, and to give context to you and the listeners and watchers, my wife thought the first Suicide Squad movie was a good movie. She gave that shit an 8. She's wrong, but I'm dealing with that. We're working through it. But like the first thing she said after we finished
She,
watching The Flash, she said, "Why did it look like a video game?"
yeah,
And I'm
it
like,
did.
that's the problem right there.
Yeah.
Like if someone who is not even like deep into this shit is like, why did it look like crap? It looked like crap, guys.
I, I really wish we could see the air cut of the first Suicide Squad. Is that coming at some point?
Supposedly it exists. He has implied that James Gunn said it would be released, but like after they've had a chance to start the new DCU,
Yeah,
which I'm
I
like,
would I really
if they
want to see it
release
because
that, I want Batgirl. I don't care what the fuck they say.
oh
If they
shit,
release
yeah.
that, I want Batgirl. Like,
Because I honestly I'm one of the few people, one of the very very few people that like Jared Leto's Joker, and
yeah,
I
I
think
would say yes, you are.
and I think that there's a lot more of it that that worked probably that is in the air because apparently that's like a large chunk of what got cut out
Yeah,
is this bottom
he's
more
gone on
joke.
record saying like he
Yeah,
recorded so much stuff that they cut,
yeah.
which I honestly, here's the thing. I don't mind, like I'm actually a fan of different takes on characters. My favorite line of comics besides X-Men is What If. Like What If and Exiles, those are my favorite non-X-Men directly books because it's like you explore different possibilities and different interesting things. So I'm always cool with a different character take. I did not necessarily think the concept of that Joker was bad. I thought the execution was shitty. Like
Mm.
I would have
Yeah.
wanted to see him, like, man, I would have wanted to see him interact with Common's was it Tattooed Man? I always forget because he was on like the
Tattooed
Justice League for
man.
like 12 seconds. But like I would have wanted to see them interact. I would have wanted to see I wanted to see like a Bat movie with him as the villain because that's a different Joker. I'm interested in the full execution of that. But I think the thing that we didn't get, which I'm hoping we do get with what is it, Rogue? I can forget what the name of it, Rogue Sun or whatever the fuck it's called. No, that's the comic. Whatever Snyder's new thing is over at Netflix. Um, Rebel Sun,
Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon. Yeah, that was close. Rebel Celestial Body.
Mhm.
I hope what we get there is something that we've yet to get from Snyder, aside from like a couple one-offs that most of it was just him putting comic books on screen. Um, I hope we get a full story told from his perspective, like a complete arc, because we didn't
Mhm.
get that with the Justice League movies. We damn sure didn't get that with the like zombie universe he started because he made one movie, some other director made the other one, which like is a prequel, which doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It's just like a character study. So like I don't know what that universe is like in his head because he's never given us a final product because it was supposed to be more movies or in a show I thought of that, but nothing ever happened. So what I'm hoping is that the like two parts that he's putting out is a complete story because I think
Mhm.
he could be a good storyteller. We just have never gotten a full story out of him. Like
Right. Yeah. I agree.
it's
I agree with you.
like I don't like the people who are like, oh, he's like amazing. No. he he is different. He has a unique style. I think he's a little too gritty. Like I didn't like his, Space Jesus take on Superman, but like
Mhm.
angsty Space Jesus, like I wasn't really into that. But like the concept of like what if Superman actually like grew up in like a real world and then like became like despite the real world being the real world still became a symbol of hope. That's an interesting take. We just never
Mhm.
got it because of
Mhm.
DC's bullshit. Oh, we got to do Batman versus Superman and Justice League because Avengers made $1 billion.
Right.
Like, it's just like in comics, editorial will always fuck it up. Like the
Mhm.
corporation will always fuck it up, which is why I think in Drone Slayer and I think in um I forgot what the hell's the horror book?
Dragon Face.
Dragon
Dragon
Face.
Face.
In Dragon Face, like corporations are a bad guy, and corporations are a bad guy in a lot of stories for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yep.
Like the corporate mindset's always gonna fuck shit up. So like that's where we are. But like I'm interested to see what he does with Rebel Moon. I'm interested to see like the new DC universe. Like that stuff's interesting. And so to go back to my list of questions here that were proposed by TikTok fans, would you want to see your work adapted into animation or live action? And if so, which and who would you want? I'm going to add this on. Who would you want to do it?
I think it's a great question. I think, listen, the short answer is always most of the time going to be yes. I think most creators who work in any written medium, whether it be comic books or books, would love to see their work properly adapted into film or television or video games or anything like that. But I like to think of things a little bit differently. I'm not exactly looking at television and film as as the final frontier.
Sure.
I can see Kimi Cosmic being made into a collectible card game or a video game or anything, or even if it's just a line of toys or accessories. Like I don't necessarily have to do the film and TV thing. Um, I think that uh, Brian K. Vaughan, who's a writer I admire, he wrote Y the Last Man and Saga, uh, which is a super popular comic. He says he gets offers all the time to make Saga into a TV movie. And he turns him down. He says he will never adapt it into a film or television. And his whole thing is it's meant to be a comic book. That's the format that the story is being told in, and that's the format that it will work best in. So adapting it into film and television doesn't make any sense because it's not going to be as good as the comic.
Never,
Um,
never.
and
I've only
for
read the
me,
first volume, and I know that it shouldn't
yeah,
be live. It
yeah,
definitely shouldn't be live action for
right.
sure.
No, for sure. Yeah, if they ever did, it could be like an adult animation.
Yeah,
But yeah, like that's the best we would do with Saga. With that being said, of course, if you know Disney, Pixar, or DreamWorks came up to me and said, "We'd love to make Kimmy Cosmic into an animated film. Can we license it?" Of course, I'm going to say yes.
right.
Um, but I think once again, I kind of feel how Brian K. Vaughan feels, where I'm like, it's a comic book, and that's the story. This is the way I wanted to tell a story. However, Kimmy Cosmic in specific has a lot of crossover potential. So it was kind of designed with the aesthetic where, oh, there's colorful characters and there's a whole kind of there's not a magic system, but there's a kind of like a sci-fi animal system. She harnesses these bioluminescent farm animals that float through space called plipods, and there's three different colors of them, and each color has a different property. So that's intentional because I know
It's
those types of
it's feeling like a Polly Pocket. It's feeling like
right,
accessory packs. I get it. I get
right,
it.
right. And but all of these stories, all of these attributes lend itself to the storytelling. It's not like just a bunch of gimmicky stuff for no reason. It actually has weight in the story. But yes, adapting it is something that I'm always open to. But I'm not chasing it as much as I see other creators.
Right.
Just because for one, I want to finish telling my dang story.
Thank you.
Like
That
that's
as the reader, I appreciate it.
that we saw it happen to Mr. George R. R. Martin. I feel like there's this rush to adapt it, and a lot of these people, I've seen comics that are only 4 or 5 issues in getting TV show and movie orders and stuff like that, and I'm like, dude, like who's gonna write the rest of your story? Because if you get like a 12 episode season one and you've only written 4 issues,
Right. Like
so
imagine Invincible being pitched to a young Robert Kirkman
right,
on issue 7.
exactly,
It's a
exactly.
it's a
That's
it's like
the
an 80
wow
issue or
that
100 plus issue book. Like
146 issues, I think. I
Like
think
you
that is
can't.
one of the best examples you could give is that yes, he finished that story and completed it and it cemented itself. And now we can focus on adapting it in a new medium. We can add a little things, update the story a little bit because it's it's a little bit dated now. So we're gonna add a couple things, but just keeping it essentially with the same story. That's honestly the invincible trajectory would be my perfect ideal, which means that we wouldn't be doing adaptation for any of my work for another 10 years. But yeah, I mean, I
Right,
don't
right
think
in time. Because how old is your child, if you don't mind me asking?
he's 1.5.
Right in time for him to watch it. That's
But
perfect.
yeah, that
He
would
he will
be
have just read it, the complete run, and you'll be like,
yeah,
"Hey, we're watching the show now."
yeah. That would actually wow. That if we
I'm
got to the
sorry if I'm just
future of
giving
that.
you I'm sorry if I'm just giving you like an additional goal.
Well, no, I mean, no, you just charged me up and given me something to look forward to. Speaking of my little guy, I'm gonna have to put him down soon. I don't know how long we want to go. I want to answer all the questions.
No,
So
no, no. It's very free form, man. It's
oh
absolutely free
okay,
form. So we're
okay,
good whenever.
okay. Yeah, no, I'm not rushing off now. I just wanted to be a little bit time conscious. I'm getting the
For sure. For sure.
see he's getting naughty eyed or heavy eyed.
Understandable, understandable. Well, let me then ask. Actually, I think this is a good one and a solid one to end it on here. How do you go about making an original character that doesn't feel like it is a derivative or just like a carbon copy of someone else's character?
Mhm.
Like it's
Wow,
it's not Black Batman. It's not
wow.
young Wonder Woman. Like it's
Right. What I've always been a stickler for trying to make something as original as possible. As a writer, to me, that's one of the biggest challenges. Dragonface, for instance, when I started writing that, it was because everyone was writing like superhero stuff. And sure, I like superheroes, but I think villains are more interesting. So I wanted to write something that had a villainous perspective. Um, just because I try to fill the void of what stories aren't being told. Um, you know, it. I have a space cowboy young adult comic. I have a sophisticated horror comic and an Afrofuturistic thriller. Those are three comic books that are kind of in their own pockets.
for sure.
It's not the typical. You said Black Batman, Black Superman. No disrespect to a lot of my other comic book creators, because there's a lot of amazing books out there. But I do see a lot of derivative stuff.
For
I
sure.
do see a lot of things that don't seem super original. But the cool thing about derivative stuff is it can be unique in its own way. Like Invincible is totally derivative.
Yeah.
Invincible
He's just
is
young
what it's
Superman.
right. He's Peter Parker if Peter Parker was a Kryptonian,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you know what I mean. And like, but that's what makes it original, right? Is the blending of the stuff that you've seen before, right?
It's
Or
hip
the
hop.
boys, right? Right. Good, great knowledge. Or the boys, right? The boys, they do that thing. I don't know. Somebody's got to really figure this out and make it a thing. Why is every super team archetype the Justice League? Like you talked about Squadron Supreme, right? They're the Justice League. The boys, the seven, they're the Justice League. Um, the like
I
oh
think I
man,
can
there's so
answer
many
that
different.
one.
Okay,
I can answer. I can answer both of them because the Marvel one, the Squadron Supreme, that was just like a little like friendly jab, right? They did
right,
that
jab,
a
right,
lot
right,
back and
right, right,
forth.
right, 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 right.
Um, but the boys, I'm gonna give
It's
that to
supposed to be
Garth Ennis.
satirical.
Garth Ennis wanting to write a darker story, a darker superhero story, and then kind of falling into the trap that I see a lot of people talk about. Oh, DC is dark, like generally speaking, which is hilarious to me because like their main dude is the literal symbol of hope. But
Mhm,
that's
mhm,
a whole argument that I have every few months on TikTok.
mhm,
But like everyone, like, I don't want to say everyone, but like a large group of the online community and comic book fandom just has this perspective that DC is dark because
Hmm.
their heroes are like these like epic, like godlike characters, which is Morrison's fault. I won't lie. Like, you know, they started that whole thing in the 90s with JLA in the comparison to the Greek pantheon. So it's like I get where that's coming from. So when I bet when uh I just lost the name. Garth Ennis, when he wrote The Boys, um was probably looking at, oh well, you know, they're going to be these like gods, like humanity should be afraid of them, so I'm going to, you know, make them like the DC's gods, because Marvel's
Yeah,
characters have always been
more
um
down to earth.
more down to earth. Like, you know, even though the Avengers founding members,
Is a god.
two of them are two, like one is a was a actual god, the other one we have recently found out is the literal embodiment of the like negative version of the, it's like the one below all, right? And it's like a divine vessel, if you will, the Hulk.
Right.
um but like everyone else is flawed, and even they're flawed because he has this weaker persona,
Right.
and
So
even Thor had his like human form. They all
right.
have this thing that takes them away from this godly status, whereas Superman is always Superman. He just pretends to be Clark Kent sometimes. Let me rephrase that. I don't think that's true. I think Superman is Clark Kent, and he just has this incredible weight on his shoulders, and I think that's what makes him interesting. But people have written it the other way around, and people have taken that to be like the gospel, if you will, of DC. So I think when people make pastiches of them, the Superman character is always this like, you know, stands apart from people. And that's why that moment, I don't know if you've seen the most recent season. I'm pretty sure I'm
No,
done
no,
with The
I haven't
Boys.
seen the last season of The Boys, but I
There's a
saw the
moment
first two
where
seasons.
I'll just give you this. I won't give you the context, but there's a moment where Homelander says, "I'm better." And I'm like, I could see someone writing that if they don't actually read Superman, but just like read Cliff's notes about Superman. Like I
Interesting.
can have somebody, I could see like how someone could write that, thinking like that's what Superman might seem like to people, because it's like
Mm.
I could see people being like that if they never actually knew Superman as a character. So I
Interesting.
think that's where that comes
Yeah,
from.
yeah. It's like the Superman. It's like there's always a Superman archetype. They always have the Wonder Woman archetype. They always have the Flash archetype. A lot of times they have a Martian Manhunter archetype too. Um,
Yeah,
like
there's always some sort of
Even Invincible, the
the
Guardians of the
robot.
Globe were the Justice League. Yeah, I guess it's always interesting to me that because I've seen it in several comic books
Mm-hmm.
and other things. There's they always have the Justice League characters, and it's almost like I almost want to make a story about why that is. Like, why are these certain superhero archetypes repeated over and over and over again? Why do we always go with a Superman? Like, why is it not a Green Lantern or a Wolverine? Why is Superman always when everyone envisions a superhero, they immediately say Superman, think about Superman. And then if they think about a woman, female characters, usually Wonder Woman. It's
Right.
interesting how we is there some type of ancestral maybe these gods did exist and this is humanity collectively trying to remember them, and we keep
Ooh,
making this vague
ooh, ooh.
character. Did I just come up with a
I'm
story idea?
do it. We'll bleep it out. We don't have to publish this part. No, but that's a great, and that's the kind of thing where I'm really interested in that kind of stuff. And you actually might enjoy, just out of that kind of idea set. Have you ever heard of The Horseman by Jibba Mole Anderson? Uh,
No, I've not.
Jibba, I've known Jibba for damn 10 years now. No, 20. Shit. Old, man. I'm old. But he did this comic book series, started it back in the 90s, called The Horseman. It's a whole it's hard for me to like, I'm really bad at pitching it. I've read it on two separate occasions in two very different parts of my life, and I'm like starting to get it. I think it's going to take three or four more, but I think that's just because it's me. and
Mm,
I think it is more of a I like complete tangent. I was like real bad at reading comprehension in school. Like for me,
mm,
it's like I need the like conflict to be a little more obvious.
mm-hmm,
This is a little more complex, but it's not like unreadable. It's very enjoyable, but it's based on well, several African pantheons, um, and
mm-hmm,
the return of the Orisha into like the modern era. And there's several different volumes of the series, but yeah, you might dig that. You might enjoy that. It's very cool. I like I
sounds
like to
super.
call him a pioneer in the Afrofuturism space.
Okay, okay, nice. Yeah, no, please send me his stuff. I love to check it out.
For sure, for sure. His campaign is live now too. I gotta give a
Oh,
shout out to the homies.
oh,
Four pages, 16 bars. His anthology series where he brings in different characters and different people, different creators into one book. I think he called it the penultimate. I think volume 10 is going to be the last volume of that.
mm.
So I don't know what he's doing going forward, but yeah, he's always doing something. Jim's good people, and he's got a lot of dope context, dope ideas.
Awesome.
We get you in volume 10, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure, for sure.
So yeah, I mean let's wrap it up here. Let's give the people your site, your socials, all that good stuff where people can find you. And then of course make sure
So,
you guys check out the Kimi Cosmic campaign. It's on pre-save right now. Make sure you hit that notify button. We want to get those numbers up so when it launches, you guys all know when it's live so you can get that book.
absolutely. On the socials, I'm EarthTone_Kingdom. And that's EarthTone_Kingdom on IG, and X is where I really frequent. There's a Facebook, there's a TikTok, there's a Threads, but I hover around those. I'm not super active. X, unfortunately, is the easiest way to get in touch with me if you really want to holler, or hit me up on IG. And then the website is earthtoneking.com. That's earthtoneking.com. Sign up, get 20% off if you sign up for the email list. And yes, thank you for shouting out the Kickstarter. We do have the Kickstarter coming. We got pre-launch right now. Got this shiny rose gold Kimi Cosmic #1. We got this Drone Slayer #1 alternate cover. And we got Kimi Cosmic issue 6 and 7. Gonna all be launching on the Kickstarter, and you can also do the catch-ups. You can get the Kimi Cosmic graphic novel. You can get you know uh, all my other things that I've put out will be on the Kickstarter for people who did not get them during the original run. So I thank you so much for having me here. This has been a great conversation. Um,
Absolutely my pleasure. You're welcome back anytime, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's gonna be it for this one, folks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Stevie Wonder playing through my headphone, looking in the mirror like I'm dead wrong. When the battle's over and I'm dead gone, he fought the good fight written on my headstone. Got a freaky, 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 freaky